Hi, welcome back to the Live More with Ray show. It is our pleasure tonight to be with you, and we hope you are excited to hear what we have to speak about tonight. We have a great audience, and we have a great guest with us, and we are so excited that we're starting a new segment. Our segment tonight will be on finances. Get your pens and paper out. We are going to learn about finances. We're going to learn about money. We're going to learn about everything. We have this great guest, Mr. Parsons, and he's from New York, and he's going to tell you who he is and what he does. But before we get started, I want to tell you that when we're dealing with finances on our Live More inventory, we are actually talking about a complete financial profile of individual finances, all inclusive of knowledge, training, and implementation of financial principles. Now, listen, I don't know about you. I wasn't really taught about money. I wasn't taught about what to do with money. All I knew is if you got some money, you spend it. If you got a little bit more, you spend some more. So tonight, I'm in the learning seat. I'm teachable. I hope you're teachable, because we need to know what to do with our money. We need to know where to go, who to talk to, who to invest with. So tonight is the night. We are excited about you learning. And listen, if you learn something, teach someone something, because we know that living more and fearing less is what we do best. So tonight we have Mr. Parsons, Greg, if you don't mind me calling you Greg.
Please do.
And so, tell us who you are, where you're from,
where to begin?
Wherever you like.
I'll start backwards. So Greg Parsons, I run a firm, CEO of a firm, Semper Capital Management. We are a boutique fixed income advisor. Right? We provide asset management, money management services to a wide swath of customers, ranging from the largest of the large, right, the General Electrics, the Pitney Bowes of the world, all the way down to the individual investor.
Okay. So when we start talking about monies, could you let's go as far back as possible. When did you learn about money?
I got to say, I think back, and you got to give credit where credit is due. I think back, especially now that I'm a parent. I was fortunate in that money was always something that was discussed when I was a young kid. I kind of grew up with a sense of how to earn a buck, what to do with the buck, right? If you want to go buy a pack of bubble gum or you want to go buy a new pair of sneakers, my dad, I literally remember the conversation, told me when I was 5, if you want something, you pony up half and I'll pony up the other half. And so it was a very kind of clear path towards, well, and if you want to earn $5, go shovel the driveway, or I literally used to count my dad's quarters, right? Every time you would stack a roll of quarters, right, I could take half the rolls that I stacked, right? So there was a very proactive sense of my parents kind of trying to instill kind of the equation of work to money, and then money to value, and thinking about how to spend money and save money, and kind of making trade-offs on, you can't just have everything, and money, fortunately, unfortunately, a lot of times is the path to get certain things that one wants. So kind of grew up with it as a talked about element, right, growing up.
So we before we get into the interview, we are living in a society that's willing to pay anything for almost anything. Like the sneakers are $500, $1,500, and actually our kids are really wanting and desire that, and it's kind of ridiculous. But how can we instill in our children's lives the principles of finances? Like I know it's when we don't. Very few parents do allowance anymore. It's usually, if you need something, here's the money, go get it. But I like the idea that you talked about. You have to do something. Your dad's going to do half, but you have to actually do something to get the other half done. So, what is the one thing that you remember that we can tell the audience, this is what you do with your kids with money?
Well, at least, a big pattern, right? And if it's someone else's good idea and there's plagiarism, I'll take it. Again, my parents were... And I'd like to think I've got a 7.5 and a 3.5-year-old, so we're just now wrestling with the I want, right, especially now with iPads and iPhones, and hey, click a button and you get the new game. You do your best. I think there is some element of trying to tie work to money, right? Money doesn't fall off of trees, right? And people have different methods, but how do you say, if you do X, something that's probably a little bit unpleasant, right? Do the dishes or clear the table or some type of
vacuum,
chore, something.
right.
Or if you want to go out and have a bake sale, or shovel the driveway or lemonade stand, there's some trying to teach the relationship between activity drives value, and for that value you get money. And then not always, frankly, always saying yes, trying to set clear, obtainable goals. If you want to go to the movie with your friends,
Right.
or if you want to go to the movie, you've got to pony up $1 out of the 12 or 2 out of the 12 or
Right.
something, so that it's not just a constant barrage of I want, here I take, because folks are frankly trained that way early, right? What do you expect when they're 14, 15, 16? Now,
Right.
again,
And then
easier
26
said than
and
done.
30, right. Absolutely,
but,
absolutely. Because Mom, I need $5 for lunch. Mom, I need,
Actually, I blame
$10.
the grandparents, right?
The grandparents.
I'm
Oh, it's the
square.
grandparents.
Somehow all the rules that were imposed upon me as
right.
a kid.
Doesn't happen when it's the next generation.
Yeah,
right? The grandparents do it.
So,
okay.
But no, I do think, and you can't start too early trying to find ways to equate, work to money and then money to items, and trying to make that link that if you want things, you can work for them.
Okay.
Right? And maybe money's the wrong metric, but right, you can't just, things in stores don't appear, right? There's effort that goes into being able to access what you want.
Okay, all right. So we're at the Live More with Ray show, and the one question that I ask all my guests, what does living on purpose mean for you?
For me, look, I think we're blessed to be above ground.
Okay.
I mean,
every day above ground
every
is
day
a
above
great day.
ground
Okay.
is a great day.
Okay.
And everyone's situation, there are folks out there with less who have more dire circumstances, so you should be thankful for every day, and I truly believe that. And I think every day folks should wake up with, what am I trying to accomplish today, whether it's at work, whether it's on the home front, whether it's personal growth, emotional growth, spiritual growth. And every day there should be a start point and an end point.
Right.
Across some dimension, you need to be farther along at the end of the day than you were at the beginning of the day.
Okay.
And if you can, look back and you're fortunate enough to say, look, the last 365 days in the year, I was a little bit ahead of where I was when I started.
Right.
Right? You look back at the year, and if you can kind of push yourself on that path, again, easier said than done. So again, I like to think that across those dimensions, there are very tangible things that I'm trying to accomplish or get better at, and some are easy to define, right? What's success at work?
Right.
Some things are harder to find. What's success in your relationship? What's success with your kids? But always trying to push and appreciate the fact that, frankly, you're above ground.
Okay. So talking about what's success financially? What does financial success look like?
I think everyone starts at a different point, it's a different end state. So I think the first is to acknowledge that everyone should have their own definition. And again, one person's opinion. Too much of our society specifically is, well, what's success for you? And well, why, how do I keep up with the Joneses? Versus a look at, hey, what do I need to make me happy? What do I need to provide for my family? I mean, my own definition is, look, I was very fortunate. I grew up and I didn't need for a thing, right? Kind of, there was the unspoken, not rule, but kind of premise in our house that, look, we're going to get you through college.
Right.
And after that, you're on your own.
Okay.
Don't call. After that.
Don't
Until
call.
that point,
Okay.
you're good. But,
Right.
And so at least as I think about now that I have kids, again, a lot just mimicking what my parents had done, there's an expectation that, providing opportunities to my kids, whether it's activities, whether it's schooling, et cetera, there's kind of my version of success is, look, I'm going to get you through college.
Right.
After that, you're
Don't
on your
call.
own. Now,
don't text. Now it's not.
Yeah,
now
right,
it's not. Don't
text.
call. Now it's don't text.
And so, managing kind of work, financial savings, et cetera, to kind of, that really is the driver of at least the immediate over the next, you've been there and done that, right?
Right.
So over the next 10, 15 years, that's kind of the priority focus. Now, I think fast forward 15 years, and if we're fortunate the kids have gotten through that point, okay, what's the next definition? It'll probably be to not have to work to make money or work to live, or be able to have flexibility with how, my wife and I spend the following.
The following. Okay. So financial success for someone that's, let's just, demographics of someone in their 20s, what does that look like? Should they have a bank account? Or, we live in a time, everything is quick, fast, and in a hurry. You can deposit a check just by taking a picture. That's scary to me because that's not how I was
trained. It's good on the way in.
Right. It's good on the way in. Okay, okay.
You got to put
right.
impose some barriers on the way out.
Okay, so, I was trained by, each week we had a savings account in school.
Yep.
And you brought the money in, and they, went to the bank, and you put the money. What is financial success like? What could it look like for someone between 20 and 30?
Well, it's interesting. I think success, again, my definition is giving yourself financial flexibility to make decisions later in life, right? If you're 20, and no 20-year-old thinks this because I didn't think this, you actually don't know where you'll be or what you'll be doing when you're 30.
Okay.
Right. Hard stuff. You might think you have it mapped out.
Right.
You don't.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, I think at that stage of that demographic, it's, well, how do I give myself flexibility in a situation that I actually don't know where I'll be 10 years from now. I don't know where I'll be 20 years from now. So while the end state might be different for folks, I think there are certain things that are irrefutable, need to be done.
Okay, so what are they?
One, you need to be saving some type of money, and for everyone that's different, right? Is it 10% of your paycheck? Is it 15% of your paycheck? Is it 20% of your paycheck? But establishing the habit of money in from a job, I am now saving some, hard stop, right?
Okay.
It's a pattern and a habit that there is no downside, right?
Okay.
It should be mandatory. It's not, but it should be, right? Just because once you're in the habit, right, you're making $100 a week. Well, if you from day one put $10 a week away, you're making 90. You're going to learn to live on that 90, and you'll be able to adjust.
Right.
Right. If you get the 100 and you don't save, you're going to learn to live on $100 a week, and you're going to turn around a year later, and you won't have saved
Right.
the $520.
Right.
Right. So I think there's a forced element of saving that just is hard stop, should be done now.
No matter what.
No matter what. Situations are different. Sometimes it's 5%, sometimes it's 15%.
But something.
Something, right? Get yourself in the pattern of week in, week out, month in, month out. Don't make excuses. You should be saving money. Hard stop. I think in today's world where so much revolves around credit and plastic, building and establishing credit history and ensuring that that stays strong is a critical piece.
Okay.
Right? I mean, the decisions you make when you're 21, 22, 23 about, well, can't really afford those shoes or that iPod, or I can't afford that car.
Or that bag.
And then you fall, or whatever it might be.
Right.
And you fall behind. I mean, that decision point, right, is going to trickle down later in life and have a negative impact on how the next loan you try, how the bank is going to look at you when you're all of a sudden you're now 30 and you're trying to get an apartment or a mortgage on a house, et cetera. So being smart and disciplined around the use of credit, right? It is just too easy today, right? Anyone and their brother can apply, and here's a credit card, right? You're a student in school. You don't have a job.
They look for you.
Here's a credit card, right? Outside of, you know, the fees and them taking advantage of folks that might not be able to afford it, right? They're preying on people's inability to establish good habits, right? Well, if I want it and I want it now, and this card's going to let me get it, I'm going to take it, forget whether I can pay for it. So trying to force yourself to be disciplined about truly spending what you can spend versus spending what you have the capacity to spend is a critical piece. And the third is, I think, budgeting, right? I mean, budgeting is, in finance, a lot of times
the B
a
word.
Scary word.
Oh, the B word.
Budgeting is quite simple.
Right, okay.
What do I make? What do I, you know, and then you break out your expenses. What do I have to have?
Right.
Shelter, food, transportation to my job.
Right.
What would I like to have that's important to me? And
Extra food.
And then what's
restaurants.
what's nice to have.
Right.
And look, people can make it really complex. It's quite simple, right? If there's 100 coming in, of which you save 10, right?
So it's
only
only 90 coming in now.
And you have $50 of must-haves, well then guess what? You only have $40 left, so don't spend 45. Hard stop. Right now, again, there's always an excuse. There's always a reason.
Right.
It's just this month. It's just that month. It's a one-time. Well, a one-time in January, a one-time in February, a one-time in March, a one-time in April.
Makes you 4
next
months
thing you know,
behind.
you got 12 months of one-time credit card debt that now you're paying 20% on, and you've started down that cycle of kind of self-reinforcing negativity. So I think the three kind of, again, success to me is establishing yourself to have flexibility later in life at an unknown point because you don't know where you'll be 10
So
years
that's,
from now.
so they're taking notes. Flexibility in life, that's number one.
Flexibility.
Okay.
And then, how do you build that and how do you get there? And what are things that are irrefutable? One, you have to force yourself to save some portion of your paycheck.
Okay, so wait. So I'm going to back up a little bit. So I'm old school. So I used to get my paycheck and I had to touch the money. I had to literally touch the money, go to cash the check, and go in and put the money away. So that was wonderful while I did that. But now everyone's pushing you to have direct deposit. So I don't get that discipline of getting up at the end of the week, going to the bank, cashing the check, and being able to divvy up my money right there.
But they've actually made it easier. So
you think that's easier? I think it's harder. Okay, well, go ahead.
Open up a second bank account.
Okay.
And when you're filling out your direct deposit, you can direct deposit 2 different places off the same check, right? It's 1 extra line on your form or 2 extra lines.
Wow.
Right, so on the front end, you say, all right, again, my $100, option A is have it all direct deposited to my Citibank account, which I use for everything.
Okay.
Option 2 is, well, you know what, have $90 to my Citibank checking account, which I pay bills, and have $10 automatically go into my Citibank savings account that I don't touch.
Okay.
And you know what, I don't link my debit card to my savings account. So
You do not.
Well, the only way I can then go get my money is I have to go to the bank.
Okay,
I
good,
have to
good.
fill out a form. And when's the last time you went to a bank? I don't go to the bank. I go to the ATM, I pull out my money, and I'm gone.
Right.
So if there's an account, and I have one of these, an account that the only way you can get your money is to physically go talk to somebody.
Right.
It's one more structural barrier. So I think
Wow.
there are ways to make even today's world where things move fast, you don't necessarily touch things, you can turn that to your advantage, right? And specific to savings, direct deposit, you don't get to touch the check. And if you take the money away from yourself before you can even touch it,
Right.
it's kind of like a
never looked at
401 savings plan, right? Some people participate in retirement plans, some people don't have access, but your standard 401k plan says how much of your paycheck do you want deposited before we even send it to you.
Wow.
Right? 1%, 2%, 5%.
Right.
And it's kind of forced discipline. Like, I don't have a lot of discipline. So anything I can do to structurally set myself up for success,
You got to do that.
it's an easy piece. And so again, right, do little things like, well, we'll give you a debit card for the savings account. You know what? No, thank you. Just give me the debit card just to the money that I want access to.
Wow. I hope you got that because, you know, I've been battling with not being able to cash the check. That's been a big deal for me. So I haven't been saving either. I've literally, election time. I know. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
Listen, look, you had to get here. So, so after we get to the point of where we're finding flexibility in life, we're getting that stone habit of putting money in the bank, 5%, 10%. It doesn't really matter the percent, it matters the discipline. Is that right?
100%. It matters, especially 20, 30, right? It's all about building patterns and habits, right?
Patterns and habits.
And you want those to be positive patterns and habits
Right.
versus,
Negative.
unfortunately, negative patterns and habits,
Right.
If your pattern is, I want it, I buy it, and I'll worry about the credit card bill at the end of the month, you're going to find yourself on a path where you can never quite seem to catch up.
Right.
If you establish the pattern of, look, every month, 10%, make it up, goes into my savings account,
Right.
well, you turn around and you've learned to live on the other 90%, and it kind of is accruing in the background. So
Okay.
I think patterns and habits, forcing yourself or pushing yourself or finding ways to be on the positive side of that
Right.
ledger is helpful.
Okay. So we're running out of time. Believe it or not, we're running out of time. They send me these notes
just gave
about
you the
this.
cue.
I was like, oh no, are you kidding me? But I want to talk, if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about your business and what you actually are doing and what you actually want to do.
Well, I'll answer that in 2 ways, right?
Okay.
So there's what we do day to day. So again, I run an asset management firm which asks people, asks institutions, asks companies to give us their money. We then manage that money. We have got a very distinct skill set. So we manage that money for them in a very specific way, and we try and provide them a positive return, right?
Okay.
So the simplistic pitch is, give me $100,
Right.
I'm going to try and give you back 101 or
Okay.
102 or 103.
Okay.
We do that in a number of ways for a number of clients, large and small. But again, the core business day in, day out, what people at Semper spend their time doing is you're either finding money,
Right.
convincing folks that we are a good solution to manage it for them, or I've got a team of dedicated professionals that are managing the money. They are turning that $100 into 101, into 102, 103.
Okay. So that's day to day.
That's kind of day to day. I think
Okay.
where we are trying to take the business is we find ourselves in a very fortunate position where we've grown up serving primarily institutions, right? We manage money for large, established companies that have very sophisticated tools and spend time thinking about managing money. We manage hundreds of millions of dollars for the largest of the large. Again, personal desire of mine and for folks at the firm is, how do you start bringing that skill set, that knowledge base, and provide access points to people that traditionally wouldn't be able to find or access kind of our skill set?
Right.
And I think outside of Semper, right, there are a number of smaller firms that for a host of reasons just the average person wouldn't have access to, wouldn't have knowledge of, that would be beneficial to them as they think about managing. You know, when you get past step one, which is I've got to start saving money.
Right.
Step two is I got to think about how I spend my money and make sure I'm spending less than I make.
Right.
If you're fortunate enough to do 1 and 2, then you've got money left over. Okay, how do I want that managed? And how do I get my money to work for me?
Right, exactly.
And when it comes to that third bucket, we're trying to build a business that gives a lot more access to folks to think about that third piece, which is how do I get my money to work for me?
Right, just not the large institutions. You're
No,
talking
everybody.
about everybody,
Yeah.
like me and
Everybody.
my friends and my family. And
I've got my dad, my mom, my kids, my
Right.
in-law,
Everybody.
everyone and their brothers, you know, again, outside of Semper, should have access to opportunities like the one that we're providing, in that, you know, it is true institutional quality skills,
right,
but yet brought, quote unquote, downstream to the average person.
right. So the average mom, dad,
Everybody.
worker, everybody. Did you hear that? Everybody. So that's everybody. And how does that work? Like, are you actually doing that now, or are you working on different products?
So we are, and feel free to visit the website. I can't talk about specific products, but we are basically building products
Okay.
that we believe are attractive to all types of investors,
Okay.
right? And the way we think about it is more, you know, there are different ways to manage money, right? There's aggressive. I'm younger, I have a longer time frame, I can afford to take more risk in my portfolio.
Okay.
Therefore, I want to lean in and try and get a higher return, but
Right.
I understand. And there's pockets of money that, look, I'm buying a house in 6 months, or I'm going on a vacation in 2 months, or it's my kids, that I'm willing to take a smaller return,
Right.
but I really want to minimize the risk, right?
Okay.
So what we try and do at Semper is give different access points. So you, the potential client, says, here's where I want to be on that kind of risk-reward spectrum based on where I am in my life, what I'm trying to do with my money. Again, the advice or the investments of a 20-year-old who's at the front end of their career, frankly, should look quite different than someone who's 60 and at the tail end of their career.
Right.
You know, earnings power, et cetera, et cetera. So we try, as do other firms, try and offer a variety of solutions that will best fit folks
individual.
where they are in their life.
Okay,
life cycle.
so we're going to put up the websites for you to visit. But the one thing that I like that you said, that it's for everyone, and you and I both know sometimes people don't have access to things that they really need. And the one thing that bothers me is that, you know, students in school aren't trained on money, but yet we're taught to make money, and then we're not taught how to save money. You know, so it's trickling down to when they get 20, 30 years old, they've never heard about savings, and if they did, they heard about grandma and she put some money in her mattress, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So I really appreciate that, and I thank you. Now, you said the name of your company is Semper, right?
Correct.
Now, Semper means what?
Always.
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 Always. Is it always faithful? Is that it?
Well, yeah, the Semper piece is Latin for always, and,
Okay.
and I spent some time, some of the best years of my life in the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps is Semper Fi, always faithful.
Okay.
And so again, plagiarism being the highest form of flattery, as we were thinking about what we wanted our company to stand for, what
Right.
we wanted to do, the theme of always looking for the next opportunity,
Right.
always providing best-in-class service, you know, always, you know, living up to, you know, doing things with integrity, right? The theme of always when it comes to managing assets we thought
Right.
was quite appropriate. So
Yeah, that's very powerful. I mean, as you're saying, always, it's like, oh my goodness, they're always looking over, you know, my investment. They're
See, I needed
always
you to help
right, they're
on the
always managing it. They're always. I mean, in life, things don't always happen. So, but knowing that someone is actually sitting there, looking out for my best interests, looking out for my opportunities, understanding that I always need the support. I mean, that's awesome. I can go on and on and on about always. Before we close, there's a couple more questions I have. Who are your role models? If you could just give me one.
I think again, now that I'm a parent, first point blank, my parents. I mean,
Your parents,
I was
okay.
very fortunate that had very strong role models, both my mom and my dad.
Okay.
They have a fantastically dynamic relationship, and across, again, I think across things across 3 dimensions, right? There's your kind of work life,
Right.
your emotional life, your spiritual life, your financial life. Perfect world, you get as many of those to intersect and build. And across those dimensions, what my parents have done and kind of the values that they beat into us, frankly. I say that jokingly.
Jokingly
in us.
Instilled.
As I look to the types
with a hammer.
As I look to the types of things that I gravitate towards, right? They were always environments where the team was put first. There was a lot of discipline, a lot of structure, and that's, again, now that I can recognize it, a pure byproduct of my parents. So if you limited me to just one person, I'd say it's my parents.
The parents, okay, all right.
Now,
and outside of your parents?
Oh, I've been, kind of at every stage in life, I've been fortunate where I'm a big believer in the kind of the mentor model, right? It's on folks. You should always be looking for folks that you look up to, whether it's work, personal life, folks that, hey, I like the way that person does things or approaches things. I want to model myself after them. And on the flip side, I think people have a responsibility to look back behind them and pull people up.
Wow.
And literally starting I can think of key people starting probably in high school where any given year there were one or two people, whether it was sports coaches or teachers or in the Marine Corps or at work, where there was somebody who was, that's who I want to be, that's what I want to be like.
Right.
And I've kind of molded myself and tuck in behind those types of people, make them look good, and expect that they're going to, and I've been fortunate enough that the folks that I've tucked in under have turned around and said, I'll help pull you along.
Right. So we really are, we at the Live More with Ray show are very excited and very appreciative. We know that you're very busy. Yes, very busy. But we really appreciate you coming here and just sharing a little bit of knowledge. Hopefully we can, talk to you and ask you to come back and
We'd love it.
Maybe start your own show. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. Putting that out there. But, I have 3 sons, and, I always talk to them about having models and mentors in their lives. And I think it's very important that our young people have someone to look up to, not only just in the sports arena, everyone, LeBron or whomever, but in the financial arena.
Sure.
Having someone to say, listen, you know what, this is a go-to person. If you get $5 million on a contract, what are you going to do? And we don't want you broke in a day or two. You know what I mean? So, the young men that work internship on our show, hopefully they can get a chance to speak with you. We'll see how that goes. We have 1 minute left.
All right, this is like the speed minute?
This is the speed minute. This is the elevator speech. If you have one thing to tell our audience about investment or money or anything, what would it be?
I probably wouldn't have said this at the beginning of the show, but having gone through the question, I do think my comment on patterns and habits, right? Without kind of a solid foundation, right? You can start the foundation at any point in life, right? You don't miss the boat because, I wasn't saving when I was 20 and now I'm 25, right? Tomorrow is a new day and you can always break bad habits and start good ones. If you don't focus on the patterns and habits and kind of the savings, your definition of financial flexibility and thinking about budgeting, everything else is a moot point, right? If there aren't assets there to give you flexibility or to manage, nothing to talk about, right? So what do you need to do in your life to start pushing yourself away from that cycle and towards a cycle of positive financial energy, positive financial momentum? And I'd backstop that with patience, right? It doesn't happen overnight. Folks say, well, what does saving $10 a week do for me?
Right.
Well, it saves you $500 a year, it saves you, $5,000 every 10 years, it rolls over. So it's more about the patterns and habits. That without those, everything else is just a conversation.
Okay.
But if you can put those in place or move farther along that spectrum, you're putting yourself in a good spot and you open yourself up to further conversation and further possibilities.
Okay, so patterns and habits. Listen, we thank you for watching the Live More with Ray show. We really appreciate your time, Greg. We thank you so much for being here, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. Please go to the website. Please tweet us, text us, email us, and let us know what you think about the show. Greg's information, Mr. Parsons' information is available. Semper, is it?
Semper.
Semper. Is it securities? Is that it?
Sempercap.com.
Sempercap.com. We're looking forward to hearing from you. God bless you. Looking forward to helping you. Remember, live more and fear less. Bye-bye.